Law is a very, very funny industry because to the outside world, if you're a lawyer, people are like, oh, yep, I understand. But it is the breadth and depth of the legal industry is so huge that you could be a lawyer for 10 years and you could be in, let's say, immigration. If you want to switch and become a family lawyer, it's almost as different as going from marketing into sales accounts. Like it's they're different things completely. You'd almost be like starting from the bottom. So it's very fascinating, nuanced industry, and trying to find senior solicitors, senior lawyers for your firm is very difficult because that's what everybody else is also looking for. And when you are faced with that challenge, the game begins to become, well, who's paying me the highest dollars per hour? If I'm going to be a family lawyer, I want whoever's going to pay me the most to be a family lawyer. And that's not a very fun game for small businesses. There might be a fine game to play in corporate, but for small business firms, SME companies, the who's going to pay me the most game is not a fun game to play. So that's when you've got to start being clever as a business owner or as a firm and figuring out how you compensate for those knowledge or experience shortfalls in your firm, or how you become really, really worthy of really top end candidates. Yeah.
And what are those? So to start with the compensation, what are the things that say small firms that can't compete at that big corporate scale? What are those things that they can do to attract people?
Well, yeah, every company and every role I think of like a puzzle piece. They're all very nuanced and different. You could be a family lawyer in Sydney in a firm that's on the same street as another family law firm in Sydney, and it would be a completely different role because your clients are different, your ethos is different, your goals are different, your culture is different. And so having a really deep understanding of what those things are and being able to market them properly, and then also ensuring that you are worthy of great staff. Because a lot of people tell me, oh, well, I want a gun. And I'm like, well, what is your culture? Because if your culture is full of lazy people, a gun's not going to want it. Like if you want great staff, you have to be deserving of great staff, because there are a lot of bad business owners out there. There's a lot of bad managers. The majority of people that do leave roles, a huge contributing factor to that is whether or not the candidate or staff member gets along with their manager. And so having a really good management team that is supportive and encouraging, but also challenging and giving you opportunity and growth and development and opportunity and responsibility. You want a culture that is, if that's what your culture is, you don't have to have that culture, is the other side of it. If you want to be like, you know what, we're boutique, we don't want to burn ourselves out, we value work-life balance over anything else. So we have our book of clients, we like to keep ourselves at 80-90% capacity, and we're happy with that. We don't want to grow, we know what we want, and that is your firm, and that's what your staff resonate with, and that's what they want, then fine. But you need to know what it is that you want, and then you have to be deserving of that thing. So you have to kind of make sure you're putting as much work in internally to then attract them. But then you also need to make sure you're doing the work to retain, because getting staff is so hard. You want to make sure you retain them.
And so how do you start that process? How do you look inwards? Because you go, oh, we want this, we want that. But how do you start to figure out what it is that is your culture, that is your kind of the value that you would bring to the market as a business?
Yeah, so I guess I'm answering this one a little bit now. I'm just talking to you. I have like a service where we do a team audit, where we sit down with every single one of your staff member. We run them through a personality profile. We do like a performance check on them to see how they're going in their role. And then we do a full engagement survey. So I would say that, but that I don't want this to be an exercise of me selling a service, you see. Using your team, if they are happy, or if they're not happy, if you have a really mismatched team, you need to be really clear in your head of what it is you're building, where you're going, what your goals are, and what part in that game your staff play. And so using them as a resource, I think, is a really big thing. Asking them, hey, why did you take this role? What was it that caught your eye over other roles? Like what are the things that made you want to come? And then what are the things that have made you stay? Because a huge part of what I think is a secret weapon in what we do that I'm happy to share with hubbers is ad writing. The way that people go to market for staff and for talent is such an underutilized weapon, because everybody's ads read the same. They're all just a glorified job description and they all read the same. So then candidates just will look for who's got the highest dollars per hour. So if you don't have the highest dollars per hour, plus also if that is your hiring tactic, then what kind of a culture are you building? It's like not necessarily there for any really deep, engaged, meaningful reason. It's a money thing, which is fine. I'm not bashing that. But if you don't have the highest dollars per hour, then what do you have? Lawyers are pretty notoriously like work really hard hours, right? So maybe your firm is really, really hard line on work-life balance. We will really do everything we can to keep your capacity at a really manageable load so you will have dinner with your family every single night of the week. Is that what you guys go for? Because I bet you there are lawyers out there who would take a step down in money to step up their work-life balance. So you need to know what levers or what hooks it is that you have for your culture to be able to push those to find the right people.
And then once you get them in the door, how do you keep them?
Well, you would want what you're promising to be a really accurate reflection of what you have. This is the other side of it, is performers and high value people or staff are attracted to more than just benefits. So a lot of people, when they go to market, they talk about all the good things. Oh, we'll give you the money, or we give you a sign-on bonus, or we have drinks on a Friday, or you have good work life. They go all on the positives. But then what you are attracting are the people who want lots of money, less work hours, no stress, beers on a Friday. And so when you get into crunch time at work and you say, hey, can you do a little bit more? They go, well, no, you didn't say that. I agreed to this, and that's not this. So you want to make sure that when you figure out what the role is, that you don't be too scared to include the challenges or what's difficult or what's tricky. Number one, it's really refreshing. Candidates are like, well, no one's ever real about it. Number two, performers love a challenge and it gives them an ability to make an impact. And number three, your chances for longevity are higher because you're not selling some pipe dream. You're not promising the world and then a candidate comes in and they go, well, this isn't what I was promised. This looks really different to what I thought it would be. So you almost want to like under promise and over deliver. But I think really utilizing your existing team and then capitalizing on those things. When we know as business owners, we know when we need to do some marketing, what's the first thing we do? We ask our clients, why did you buy from us? Why would you recommend us to others? What is the thing that surprised you the most? Because often what we think is so great about what we do is not what it is for clients. And so knowing what it is for your staff, you might think, oh, well, I think I'm a really fun boss. Maybe, but none of your staff say that that's the reason. You're like, oh, okay, I thought they were, whatever it might be. You might think they're all there because you pay really well, but then every single one of them tells you it's because they really believe in you as a founder. You've got to kind of figure out what it is that is unique about your opportunity, about your company, about the role, about your clients, about your impact, about your trajectory, everything. And then I think be really warts and all about that.
And you're really thinking about them like the client, like the person you're hiring is essentially like you were trying to get another client. And
it's like marketing.
You're marketing to them, right? And even you're marketing your employees at that point as well. You're like, well, what do you like about this? What is your net promoter score? So
exactly.
Right? Yeah. It's that's a really interesting way to think about it, so that you get the right people on board, and then I guess to live up to that as well, right? Because you can have the best sales pitch in the world, but the bait and the switch is probably worse actually than just being a kind of crappy company and getting someone on board.
I agree. And it all depends on what you want, because every single business owner will have something different to say. When we look at candidates, through my ethos, I look at them in three different ways. Number one is performance, which is, do they get stuff done? Do they push through barriers? Do they achieve what is expected of them? Number two is their personality. Are they introverted, extroverted, moody, whatever? Number three is knowledge. Knowledge is what degree do they have, what years of experience, what firms have they worked for? And the problem is with hiring that I find is that people think that the knowledge and the personality will equal the performance. They go, oh, they interviewed really well. They're very charming. They're very likable. And they have this background of working for these big firms. They've been in the industry for 10 years. That means they're going to be great. And it's often not true. Or they go, oh, well, that candidate has only got 2 years experience. They're not experienced enough. And everybody kind of tends to put their eggs into the basket of the knowledge. The problem is, out of performance, personality, and knowledge, there's only one of them that you can change, and it's the knowledge portion. And yet everybody really hampers on about the knowledge side. My ethos is really, and it is challenging in law specifically, because you do need years of experience, exposure, knowledge, you need the degrees. That is a very important factor, much more than just hiring, let's say, an admin assistant, right? But I still think too much weight is given. And the problem is when you get to a certain level in a firm, everybody's looking for seniors. So then you're stuck in this game of begging candidates to come work for you, please. And then it becomes a numbers game. Well, who's going to pay me the most? And you're at the whim of candidates. And I don't like that. You guys should be deserving of great candidates and should be able to choose. So if there's such a scarce market up there, you can choose to have that problem. Your problem is now, well, really, really scarce candidates, they have the choice. We have to beg them. We have to compromise on certain things. We have to pay them a lot of money. If that's the problem you want to have, that's fine. You can have that same problem as everybody else. The other problem is, okay, how do we solve the knowledge side of things? How do we get so good at having systems, processes, training, development, mentoring, shadowing, exposure that we can hire lower, which means we can get a bigger pool, which means we can be pickier about the things that really matter, being the attitude and the aptitude, or the performance and the personality, and train the only thing that I can change, which is the knowledge piece. I have a client that is an immigration law firm, and they have built a brilliant firm of hiring grads through us and training them and developing them and moving them up. Immigration's a little bit more box ticky, I guess, than something like, say, for example, family law, where like, okay, are you going to entrust a 22-year-old to talk to a 40-year-old going through a divorce? Like, no. But so there are caveats to all of this. But that is like, I think that's a really exciting challenge. You should play that game of how do I streamline my delivery as much as possible, be brilliant at training, development, mentoring, exposure, and shadowing, that I can compromise a bit on the knowledge piece, because otherwise you will just be stuck with that game of competing with everybody else for top talent. And then if they get in the role and they're kind of like an iffy performer, you're going to get rid of them? No, because I'm not going to get anyone else. So you put up with underperformance, overpaying them. It's like this crazy anomaly thing that exists, and I just think it's not a very good problem. And that's what I would like to help them, your clients change, or your attendees change.
That's really good. That resonates with me, because so my background, I'm not a lawyer.
Me
yeah. I'm actually a doctor.
Oh, so,
wow. I did study initially, and then I worked for a couple of years in sales, commercial. Went back to medical school. That's how I ended up working with Dan and with Jacob.
Wow.
And doing this. But in the time that I was working, I worked for a rather high-performing medical device company. And what they did really well, I think, is what you're talking to, is that they really look at what's the aptitude of the person, like what's their attitude like, and those sorts of things. Like, we don't really care about their experience yet. We'll hire them when they're younger and they're keen, and we'll train them in what they need to know. But because they hired the right personality types, they just do. There's a super high performing organization.
Yeah.
And then they make money, right? They do end up making money because the business grows and it makes a lot of money, so they can pay their people a lot of money. But the key sort of difference I've seen in what they do compared to some other companies is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I love that. And it allows them, because then they become a magnet for more people that are like that. And then their staff are cheaper. They can pay them more, right? You said they're high performing, so they can give them money, but on paper they are cheaper. You can start them cheaper. And their hiring pool is limitless, because they're like, well, I can train you. It is also very naive to think, the other problem with going, I only want to hire senior people, is that means that your training and hiring process is, I'm going to wait for the rest of the industry to train up my talent for me, and then I'm going to take them. That's a crazy training process. That's like nuts. It's also naive to think that they're going to be able to step into the shoes and start walking. You will always have to do some training. And often with more senior people, you have to detrain them and then retrain them. So if you're already going to be putting in some training, why don't you get someone a little bit more junior and train them up? And then you can be picky about attitude and aptitude, and you can get someone that is there for the right reasons. I get very passionate about this, as you can tell.
Yeah, I can tell. It's brilliant. No,
yeah.
I really
resonate with what you say, because it is. And most high performers, they get it. Especially like business owners, they get it, because all business owners at one point started a business and didn't know what they were doing. So they didn't have the knowledge piece, did they? But they pushed through the barriers, the problems, because they have attitude and aptitude. So you can see that people that have attitude and aptitude will push through a lack of knowledge. They'll figure it out. They'll ask the questions. They'll do their own research. They'll come up with solutions. They'll brainstorm things. They'll figure it out. But the knowledge side people, it's almost like that street smart versus book smart thing. You know, you know, people that graduate top of their class, and then you put them in, they're just like, it's like, okay, they know the textbook, but can they actually apply it? And it's like that. I know so many business owners that are like, never went to uni. They just like, a lot of them didn't graduate high school. And it's like, it's a totally separate thing. It's unique in law because you do need degrees.
Yeah.
And
same in medicine.
Yeah, same in medicine. But how many doctors or lawyers, young ones that are hungry and smart and switched on, get overlooked because somebody else had a better CV? And you're like, I know I could run circles around that guy, but he's been in the industry 5 years longer, so he gets the job. And it's like, realistically, what's important? And the guns, you get it. You get it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Completely understand. Maddie, that's brilliant. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
We look forward to seeing you on the 27th at our next event.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait.
Cheers.